بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما تعلمنا وزدنا بفضلك علما وتعليما إنك على كل شيء قدير. Okay. So I want to go on to just some of the details about here. We really don't have that much to cover left in the book, but it's just useful to have a look at these things. I implore both of you and anybody who is um, listening to the recording, so please read the whole book. Go through things that are not clear. The English isn't always 100% reflective of the Arabic. It is obviously hard to translate. So, um, you know, please do go back here and there. So here the issue then, this is very important. I'm not sure if it's in the Sirah of Ibn Hisham or in this, which Sirah it's in. I'm not really sure. But there's an important explanation for two important explanations for the beginning of shirk, the beginning of idol worship. Um, One is about righteous people, and the other is about relics. So basically, that not Lat and Uzza, that Yaguth and all these different Nasra and these different people, these different idols, these were originally righteous people, and that these righteous people were venerated. And then when they died, their graves were visited. And then visiting graves of righteous ended up in the worship of the righteous. So therefore, we should not visit the graves of the righteous. That's one explanation. It comes similar. Well, the conclusion is not necessarily true, but the beginning is narrated from Ibn Abbas, I believe, with a weak chain transmission, but regardless, is narrated from him. The second, and again, I believe it comes somewhat in Sirah, is about veneration of relics. That the Quraysh, what they used to do is they used to give relics of the Kaaba. So let's say, for example, you're coming from far away from a distant tribe. You bring something from something that is not blessed, that is not Mubarak, and you bring it into the Haram and you keep it next to the Kaaba so that it becomes blessed, and then you bring it back with you, or you take something back from the Kaaba somehow. Now this is something blessed from it's now blessed because it's from the Kaaba, right? It's like Ibn Battuta when he was traveling through the worlds, he went to Jerusalem and he was visiting Turkey, I believe, and there was a priest in Turkey that would start kissing his feet because his feet had stood on the place of had walked in Jerusalem. So anyway, so the point is tabarrukat, relics. So then those relics were brought back to their cities, to their villages and tribes, and people started venerating the relics, right? Like you venerate the Quran, and then they started worshipping it, right? So so this then is a uh, a second explanation or warning against relics and against the righteous, right? So if you reverse it, then how can you reverse that problem? Don't revere anything other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't respect anything than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and keep it as restrictive as possible. Any form of reveration, of reverence and am I saying the word right? Veneration. Okay. Any form of veneration that is not explicitly commanded for us to do in the Quran and Sunnah, don't do it because it will lead to shirk. That's the conclusion that they have. Because it will lead to shirk. Right? Are you both following me? So this
Yes. Yeah.
model of the past, it's a thing. So don't do this because it will result to shirk. So if you say, oh, this is mashallah, there's barakah in this, it's shirk. Meaning either it is shirk or it leads to shirk. Um, so anything and everything is a means and not a means to these things. Now, here's an important principle in fiqh. Okay, this is an important principle in fiqh, and it's worth writing down. Imam al-Qarafi, he talks about sadd al-dhara'i. Sadd al-dhara'i means blocking the means to the haram. Okay, and what does it mean? It means there are certain things that are halal in and of themselves, but when they result in the haram, they become haram. Okay, so there are certain things that are halal in and of themselves, but because they result, they are a dhari'ah, they are a means to the haram, they become haram. Okay, now when you look at these dhara'i', when you look at these means, you can break them down into about four different categories. Okay, category number one definitely results in the haram. Okay, so something is haram because it definitely results in the haram, right? Badr needs a knife to stab somebody, I give him the knife to stab somebody, right? Badr is walking backwards, I dig a hole behind him where he can't see and he falls into the hole, right? So anything that is halal in itself, like digging a hole, when it normally results in a haram, like Badr falling into the hole, or Badr stabbing somebody that I know he's going to stab, right? Then it becomes haram. So doing something that definitely results in it. Okay. And then on the other side, um, yeah, and then so that's definitely, and then likely, right? So selling marijuana normally results in the haram, doesn't have to, right? Uh, Mixing, uh, 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 gender mixing normally results in haram, doesn't have to, right? And so it normally does, but doesn't have to. So there's many scenarios like that, right? And so we have definitely, generally, غالبا, usually we'll do that, right? And then you have the other side of غالبا, the other side of normally, which is very unlikely. Like it is haram to drive a car because somebody who doesn't have a car might feel jealous of you. I mean, I guess so. It's haram to go to the masjid because somebody might see you in the masjid, might be jealous of the fact that you went to the masjid, right? It's haram to sell bread because people might eat too much bread and get sick. So yeah, but I mean, that's not very likely, is it? So the likelihood, the connection between cause and effect are not very strong at all, right? Like selling nutmeg, right? Nutmeg is something that can be used to smoke like marijuana, and they've spoken about it in the past, but it's not really, I mean, it doesn't usually result in a harm, like a thing that normally happens. So anyway, so we have definitely results in haram, normally results in haram, rarely would result in the haram. Okay. And then you have number four, which is may or may not result in the haram. Right? May or may not. So if you think about this so we talk about this in fiqh, we say, for example, I'm going to sell a knife to somebody who may or may not stab somebody. I'm going to sell a knife to somebody who is most likely going to stab somebody. I'm going to sell a knife to somebody who I know is going to stab somebody right now. So the 50-50 is going to be makruh, and the most likely or definitely is going to be haram. Okay. So Imam al-Qarafi, he says, we all agree, the fuqaha, Imam al-Qarafi is Maliki. He said, we all agree on, when we say there's a difference of agreement on sadd al-dhara'i, on blocking the means, right, to the haram. We all agree on the first two categories. Something that normally or definitely results in the haram being haram, that we all agree on that. And we all agree that that something that may possibly result in the haram it, you know, um, is not, it does not haram, right? We will, the issue is a 50-50. Okay. So this is the system that we have to think about. It doesn't matter what happened historically, right? So you say you can't do this because it results in this. Okay, that's a fiqh issue. It's not an aqidah issue. Let's go to the fuqaha, look at the ashbah wa nadha'ir, look at how they dealt with things that result in the haram, and see how to interact with it, right? And it could change from place to time, right? So again, doing giving a fatwa in South America, right? Heavy Catholic, heavy paganistic society, right? Where it's kind of mix of Catholicism plus paganism, right? You're giving doubt to these people. What you might say, what you might do is very, very different to some other place, right? Sayyidina Umar once saw a Sahabi pray after Asr, and he said, "Hey, what are you doing?" So I'm praying sunnahs after Asr. So why are you doing that? So I saw the Prophet do it. He says, you're being taken as an example, right? And somebody will see what you're doing and they'll think it's okay to pray after Asr in an absolute sense, when in reality it's not in an absolute sense. You know that the scenario in which you could do that, specific scenario. It's a qada, it's a tahiyyat al-masjid, it's this, it's a that, etc. But they don't know that. So don't do it, right? So Sayyidina Umar was the king of this, telling people don't do that, right? The Sahaba, they used to make wudu from the same place, men and women from the same place. Sayyidina Umar banned it, right? Sahaba, they used to pray Taraweeh in a kind of loose sense. So, Umar said, no, let's keep everybody coming together and praying as a group, because this is better, right? This is less likely for the people to not be able to pray behind somebody who knows lots of the Quran. What it will lead to is better. So this kind of thing of looking at what will something lead to. This is a kind of um, a not something that's unique to Sayyidina Umar, but something that Sayyidina Umar is very, very um, wise concerning. Okay, so this is this thing. Oh, don't do that. It results in this. Don't do that. It's not legislated, right? And so here it's again conflation, which can be a problem between baraka and ta'thir. Baraka, right? Let's write these words down. Ta'thir, right? Baraka means blessings. This is mubarak. This is blessed, right? This is a blessed place. This is a blessed thing, right? Or blessed thing. Ta'thir is it actually has an effect, right? A ta'thir. So a ta'thir is that it has an effect is only Allah, right? So if you believe that the Mus'haf, like you have a copy of the Mus'haf in the Quran with you in the car with you, and it will protect you from a car crash. What, the Mus'haf will protect you from the car crash, or Allah? Oh, good point. I'm confused now. Does the Mus'haf protect me or does Allah protect me? Allah protects you. Well, why does Allah do that? By virtue of the Mus'haf, right? Literally by virtue of, right? Because of the barakah of, by its virtue, right? We say by virtue of, usually because of, right? But by virtue of, bifadli kada, right? By the grace of something, by the barakah of something, right? هل تنصرون ترزقون إلا بضعفائكم, right? Are you given the hadith? Are you given sustenance or victory in war except through the barakah, right? The blessings of this person is among you. These people are among you, and that's why you are given success. That's why you are given food, etc. Because these people are among you. There's barakah. Okay, are they the cause? No. The ta'thir, is it in their hands? No, it's not. Okay. So then just by bi barakatihim, right? By virtue of them. By virtue of them, Allah makes that thing happen. Right? So these things are kind of lost on certain people. Two concepts, the difference between barakah and ta'thir, and difference between and sadda dhara'a, right? It's a very important thing to understand, right? And then again, what was the rhetoric? What was the explanation we mentioned time and time and time again is two things. A, lack of balance. That's what these people are reacting to, lack of balance. Okay. And then B, cherry picking, right? So they're going to come along and be like, you can't do that, right? So Sayyidina Umar, for example, he looks at the black stone and he says, I know you're a black stone. I know you can't help, you can't benefit. And had I not seen the Prophet ﷺ kiss you, I wouldn't kiss you. So now you make a whole aqidah based on that one quote, which is revering something the Prophet ﷺ didn't revere or in a way that he didn't revere. This is wrong and it has to be restricted as much as possible. Um, and so you just pick one thing, right? Which is not really the case at all. Okay, so attention giving in the Quran to the relics of the past prophets, right? So many of these concepts are um, obvious, right? These things just like obvious, but people are confused about it, right? So let's go, for example, the issue of istighatha. Can I go to a grave? We spoke about this before. Can I go to a grave and say, "Oh, person of this grave, cure me"? You're like, no, that's shirk. Okay. Okay, can I do sujood to the grave? Say, no, the shirk. Okay, can I do sujood to a cube, a large cube? They're like, no, that's shirk. Can I do sujood to the Kaaba? Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, what's the difference? Well, what is the difference? You tell me. Whether or not. What's the difference between doing sujood to a large cube building and doing sujood to the Kaaba?
For the
Barakah.
Go ahead, Badr, and then Noab.
because the Kaaba we were ordered to,
Okay, so if you were ordered to worship a golden calf, that'd be okay.
by Allah.
So if Allah said, I've now decided that there's no more tawheed, there's now shirk. I now want you to believe that in multiple gods.
That wouldn't make any sense.
hmm So do you worship the Kaaba or do you worship Allah?
Allah.
Right. So when you're doing sujood to the Kaaba, what is your belief that the Kaaba is your God?
No.
No. Right. So the difference is not that one is legislated and one is not legislated. The difference is in your belief. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you did sujood to your parents right now, so I read Surah Yusuf and I was like, oh wow, I should respect my parents like everybody respected Yusuf. And you did sujood to your parents out of ignorance, like I didn't know that it was haram, right? Whether or not you can do sujood to your parents is an issue of fiqh. Like, is it legislated or is it not legislated? Right? It's not the issue. It's not that it's an issue of shirk. The Prophet ﷺ said, were I to command anybody to do sujood to anybody, it would be the wife to the husband. Okay, so he's not saying, if I was to tell anybody to, and he's not telling anybody like he's not saying if I was to tell anybody to do shirk, I would tell this person to do shirk. Obviously not. No one's going to do that. Right? So the difference between somebody doing sujood to Allah and somebody doing sujood to the Kaaba is not whether it's mashru', right? It's not that it's legislated. The issue is that one is your belief. Simple as that. So you go to a grave and you're like, oh, graves, help me. Oh, mushaf, help me. Oh, person in the grave, help me. What do you believe? Do you believe the person can help you, or do you believe that Allah can help you? So I just believe that Allah can help me. I'm just asking this person, just like I asked Badr. When I asked Badr, say, Badr, can you pick me up? I just fell over. Do you believe Badr can help you independently? Yes. Kufr. Okay. Why did you? Okay, then is it haram to ask him? It's not. So it's the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. These are not subtle issues where you need to research into hadith or think about kalam or anything. It's just obvious, simple, basic, not very complex. Okay. Go ahead, Ma'ab, you were saying?
I was gonna say about the barakah, but you explained it better, obviously.
So I couldn't hear you properly. Sorry, Ma'ab.
Oh, sorry, I'm driving, that's why. But I was gonna say that we were ordered to basically what Badr said.
Yeah, so that's the common That's the common explanation that, well, this is not mashru', but that doesn't make that's not the actual difference. So mashru' or not mashru', is it legislated or not? That makes it. You could say, for example, it's not sunnah, غير mashru'. Okay, not a problem. I'm not talking about whether it's sunnah or not. Right, so this is going to get caught up on it. This is a bid'ah. I'm not talking about bid'ah or not. Okay, what are you talking about? I'm not talking about the sunnah. Oh, you don't want to follow the sunnah. I'm not talking about that now. Put that to the side. I'm not talking about bid'ah. I'm not talking about sunnah. I'm not talking about saying whether it's halal or not. Is it iman or kufr? If I did sujood to my parents, so what's the difference between Sayyidina Yaqub doing sujood to Yusuf and me doing sujood to the Kaaba and somebody doing sujood to an idol? I'tiqad, what they believe. That's the difference. What's the difference? That is the only difference. So here it says Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, in His mighty book, Allah has mentioned the story of the Ark of the Covenant. So this is not Ark, A-R-C-H, that's the ship, right? This is A-R-C, right? Which is this large chest carrying blessed things. A sign of His authority is that He shall come to you with the Ark of the Covenant and an assurance therein of security from your Lord, and the relics left by the family of Musa and the family of Harun, carried by angels. Okay. The children of Israel used to bring it to the front lines during their battles, and they would gain victory due to the blessings of tawassul to the Prophet ﷺ through its contents. They were, all right. This is a big thing in Christendom, in the Christian world, right? If you've watched, what's it called? Monty Python, the Holy Grail. If you're familiar with that, but it's
I
like
know what it
the
is.
Holy
I
Hand
haven't
Grenade.
seen it though.
Say it again.
I know what it is. I haven't watched it though, but
Okay.
I know what. Yeah.
But like bring out that, so this whole thing, like, so they would, go to Jerusalem, come back with this, and go to this and bring this, and they have it's a really big thing, right? It was a really big thing, like, so in medieval Europe, doing visiting certain places, like if you go to Jerusalem, it's like this, and if you go to Rome, it's like this, and if you go to this place, it's like this. It's a big thing, right, in medieval Europe, and then, you know. If you have this thing, this is a piece of paper that was written on by the Pope. It's blessed. This is this, all these different relics, right? You will be saved from the plague if you have this. You will be saved from this if you have this. It's a big thing, right? And again, it's a lot of hocus pocus, right? Meaning it's overkill. So imagine, for example, like I don't have to memorize the Quran because I have a piece of paper written, that was stepped on by Sayyidina Hassan, and that's Mubarak. So of course it's Mubarak. I'm not saying it's not Mubarak. Everything around any of the Sahaba is Mubarak. But it's like, you know, or like this person's from Ahl Bayt. So okay, it's fine, but you have to do things. You can't just, you know. So people overly relying on something there's good in it. That's great, but you can't do that. Right? So there is overkill. There is lack of balance, right? So imagine, for example, somebody in the medieval Europe. You're talking to this person, and you're like, in the 21st century Christianity, I'm familiar with the importance of altruism, right? And agape love and caring about your neighbor. That's what I'm familiar with, right? And for them, they're talking about crusades and relics. So like, oh, it's a very different emphasis, right? This is a key word, emphasis. What do you emphasize, right? So this is a This is a real criticism. So the criticism of the Wahhabi should be, your emphasis is wrong. Not what you're saying is wrong. Your emphasis is wrong, right? Let's look at the Jamaat Tabligh, right? And the Haba'ib in general as well, right? What's the emphasis of Jamaat Tabligh, right? Tabligh Jamaat emphasis is giving da'wah to Muslims and giving back da'wah to non-Muslims, but mainly Muslims, right? So they're saying your emphasis is on whatever it is, sacred knowledge. Your emphasis is on memorize the Quran, your emphasis on worship, your emphasis on personal change. Yes, do all of those things, no problem with them, but make sure your emphasis is balanced, that you should be going on khuruj, you should be spending time focusing on the ummah and strengthening the ummah, because the ummah's faith is weak and many people are leaving the deen, right? The emphasis should be youth. The emphasis should be knowledge. The emphasis should be whatever it is that certain people emphasize. So there's a big difference between your focus, what you're emphasizing, versus uh, versus whether what you're doing is right or wrong. Can you see that difference? So
Yes.
for many ethnic Muslims, their emphasis is still ritualistic things, right? Laylatul Qadr, go to the masjid. What's the point? I mean, it's great you're there Laylatul Qadr, but what about every other day of the week, year? The emphasis is wrong. Well, let's go to Sayyidina Nafisa in Egypt, right? One of the great Ahl Bayt, she's buried there in Egypt, and go and take a picture there. And if you go there, khalas, you'll all be forgiven. It's like, okay, well, what about Tawbah? Right? What's more important, visiting the maqam of somebody, which does help you, it is beneficial, but versus Tawbah, like that doesn't really make much sense. Like your emphasis. What about your akhlaq? Right? What about changing your own actions? So giving overemphasis to certain things does not make them wrong, but rather your emphasis is wrong. Okay? So here, like the staff of Musa and Harun, the clothes and sandals and two tablets of the Torah. Right? So these are clear evidence of that. The four rightly guided caliphs and their safeguarding the Prophet's ring. Imam Bukhari narrated in his chain that from Ibn Umar, the Messenger of Allah acquired a silver ring that he used to wear. Afterwards, after his death, it was worn by Abu Bakr and then Umar, then Uthman, until it fell into from his hand into the well of Aris. I think it's Eris. I'm not sure if it's Eris or Aris with an ayn. I can't remember now. And the ring's engraving said, Muhammad, the Messenger of Allah. Um, okay. So here, looking after the Prophet spear, the Prophet himself, um, Umar al-Khattab's safeguarding Al-Abbas's canal, because the Prophet placed it there. So there's a mizab, a canal. Other people who had, yeah, Imam Ahmad was asked about a man. So Ibn Taymiyyah, he mentions, um, Imam Ahmad was asked about a man who frequents the sanctuaries. In his answer, he said, and what Ibn Umar used to do when he would seek out the places the Messenger of Allah walked to and point where he was seen pouring water on a spot and ask about this, he replied, I saw the Prophet pouring water here. Right? So simple things like the Prophet stood here, walked here, etc. So again, overemphasis is a bit ridiculous. You are super diligent about going to a place where the Prophet poured water, but you don't care about recite Quran, or you don't care about this, kind of that. That's again, emphasis is different versus what is being done. Ibn Abbas and the ancient relics. So again, here you say, oh, that's because it's legislated. Maybe it's not legislated. But Abdullah ibn Zubayr was wished to demolish the Kaaba and rebuild it according to the original foundations. He gathered the companions in order to seek their counsel. Ibn Abbas proposed to him that he not demolish all of it, that he should rather repair certain parts of it, so that which is intact from its remains, so that which is intact from its remains, um, and that he should rather repair certain parts of it, so that which is intact from its remains remains intact as it was during the time of the beginning of Islam, the time in which the pledge of fealty was given to the Prophet ﷺ. Al-Ta' said, when the Kaaba caught fire during the time of Yazid's reign, after the raid of his troops from the Levant, Ibn Zubayr left it as it was and decided to wait until people came for the Hajj in order to rouse them for battle against the people of Levant. When the people arrived, he said to them, O people, advise me, should I demolish the Kaaba and rebuild it from anew, or should I repair the damaged parts? Ibn Abbas said, I have already given my opinion regarding it, that you should only repair that which is damaged from it and leave the rest of the house and its stones as it was when the people embraced Islam in front of it and gave their pledge of fealty to the Messenger of Allah. So keep it as it is, right? Jealousy over prophetic relics. Attention given to the Prophet's sandals. Um, the Prophet's home and noble mosque. Right, so here about the house of the Prophet ﷺ, said in his letter that was written for the people of Al-Majma'a, he said, if this is made clear, then there are issues that he censured me for. From them is that which is pure slander, such as his words. From it, his statement that I invalidate the four juristic schools of thought, that is not true, and that I say that for over 600 years the people are on upon nothing, and people are doing something wrong. Claim that and then he says, and that I say, if I were able to demolish the dome over the grave of the Prophet ﷺ, I would demolish it, and that if I was in authority over the Kaaba, I would take the golden fount and put it in it a wooden fount, and that I forbid visitation, etc. I don't believe any of these things, right? So he said, this is not true. So all of these relics. Okay, so now we're going on to the issue of the mawlid. So as many people err in the under. So there's two things here when you say mawlid. What does that even mean? So again, super important thing. A, don't debate with people. B, if you're going to debate with them, debate in something written. 3, if you're going to debate with people, define your terms. So don't do debates. Don't. Someone wants to talk to you about mawlid. Say, I actually don't want to talk about this. Right? Don't go back and forward in a debate. Right? Don't get involved in debates. If you're going to debate, just share an article. They say, I don't know, read this article, you see what you think. And then they send you an article and say, okay, thank you. Leave it like that. Don't debate. Okay. If you're going to debate, do it in writing, and uh, um, and define your terms. So what does Mawlid mean? Right? Mawlid means the day of someone's being born. Right? It's called a Mawlid. Right? So many people err in their understanding of the real nature of the Mawlid celebration that we call to and encourage others to attend. There are many false conceptions of it that they use, etc. Right? Um, Here we go. The biggest catastrophe is the lack of proper understanding. As Imam Shafi said, I have never debated a scholar except that that I defeated him, and I have never debated an ignoramus except that he defeated me. Right? Right. The most novice student of knowledge knows the difference between that which is customary, ada, and that which is worship, ibada. Right. So you don't. So I don't need a proof for that, do you? Right. I have to do. Okay. So it's not an issue. So therefore, because not ibada in itself, it's not a bid'ah.
I
Go
have
ahead.
a question.
Bismillah.
So you said mawlid is a celebration of when someone was born.
No,
Is that
mawlid
all
is
that?
mawlid means when somebody's born. So mawlid, like maghrib, the time of the setting of the sun. Mawlid, the time of somebody being born. That's what it means.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So you can say dhikru mawlidihi, a mentioning of the time when he was born, or right, or celebrating the time when he was born.
Okay, okay.
So the upshot of all of this is that even if gathering for the commemoration of the Mawlid is a customary act, it is nevertheless from the customary acts of goodness that are composed of various benefits. So basically, are you creating a new type of ibadah? No. Okay, jazakallah khair. So this is an ada, correct. Is this ada good or is it bad? Right? So i.e., is it accidentally ibadah? Right? What does that mean? Accidentally ibadah. For example, so why do you go to work every morning? Oh, I intend to provide for myself and my family. So that's ibadah then, right? So yeah. Oh, where'd you get that ibadah from? Where's the Quran and Sunnah? It's not well. So it's not ibadah. I mean, it's not ibadah. I mean, حيث هو ibadah, right? It is not. I mean, حيث هي ibadah. It is not worship in itself. It's not a ritual, right? Driving your car to work is not a ritual. So it's only good if you have a good intention. Similarly, Mawlid is only good if you have an intention for it. It's not it doesn't have any rites and rituals and conditions and times or anything like that. Just something that is just an ada. If you just went and gathered together and ate some food and sang some songs about something else, it would not be an act. It would be accidentally, i.e., non-essentially, accidentally something that is mubah. And if you did it for a good reason, it could become sunnah. For example, oh, I'm just going to hang out with some little kids, sing a song about frogs, and because my son likes this song, and he wants to have some fun so that he can do some good deeds later on, right? And it becomes active worship, exactly same thing. So it doesn't need a proof because it's not ibadah. ليست عبادة من حيث هي عبادة, right? From the point of view of it being ibadah, it's from the point of view of it, that it's a customary act, it's ada, that is just useful. It is nevertheless from the customary acts of goodness, etc., 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 and it's useful, right? Which composed of acts which taken individually are found to be sought after and legislated, right? These are things that are mashru'. So dhikr بشكل عام مشروع, right? Dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in its uh, mujmalan, in its general sense, is recommended, right? Gathering together to remember things together. So now, again, the balance, your whole life, I never see you in the masjid, I see you in every single mawlid. Doesn't make any sense, does it? Right? Um, for you, the mawlid, the annual mawlid is more important than Eid. That doesn't make sense, right? So in the Shafis, we just give an example of like the fiqh of like of imbalance. The Shafis, they say, what if I stood in my i'tidal for like 2 hours? So I started my prayer, I said Allahu Akbar. I did my Fatiha, I did a short surah, and then I went into ruku' and I came out of ruku' and then I stood in i'tidal for 2 hours. Then I went to sujood for a second, came out of sujood, etc. So they say, what did this person do? Well, the person they 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 made a short rukun, a short integral, which is the i'tidal, the straightening up between after ruku', and they made it super long. So they say this is actually going to invalidate the prayer. Okay, why is it going to invalidate the prayer? Because look, you broke the form of the ritual, right? You broke the form of the ritual. So this, because the prayer is a ritual, it is a problem. Now, life is not a ritual, right? So it's not exactly the same. But you will break the system if you're there's lack of balance, right? It's like too much emphasis on your parents, too much emphasis on your teachers, too much emphasis on your kids, too much emphasis on the nucleus, on the family nucleus, too much emphasis on politics, too much emphasis on health, too much emphasis. I don't know what it is you can do. It needs to be, uh, you know, so it's totally fine. So it's among the corrupt notions. So now when you say mawlid, so what do you so again if some a debate would happen, you say, what is your problem with the mawlid? Our problem with the mawlid is we don't know when the Prophet was born. Okay, that's also problematic, right? So so it is shirk to do the mawlid because we don't know when the Prophet was born. We don't know if he was born on the 12th of Rabiul Awwal or not. So that doesn't make it shirk, does it? Right? So that's ridiculous. Okay, it's haram or it's not sunnah. Okay, why? Why? Because you're spreading the idea that the Prophet was born on that day and it was not clear. Okay, so then do it another day. So when you say Mawlid meaning the 12th of Rabi' al-Awwal, or do you mean Mawlid as in gathering together, singing some songs, talking about the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, doing salawat on the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and then eating some food? Is that okay? Right. So among the corrupt notions that some have is that we call for the celebration of the Mawlid on a specific night as opposed to the other nights here. This simpleton does not realize that in both Mecca and Medina, gatherings in the commemoration of the Mawlids are held every day of the year, and whenever someone has a celebration or a special occasion, there is not a day or night that passes in Mecca and Medina except that there is a gathering in commemoration of the Mawlid. This occurs. Whoever knows it, and whoever is ignorant of it, ignorant of it. Whoever claims that we only remember the Prophet in one night and that we are heedless of him for the other 364 days of the year, this has invented a falsehood and come up with a grievous lie. Right? So that doesn't really make any sense. So are you talking about specific? Are you talking about the lack of balance? Okay. Are you talking about making a statement that's not necessarily historically true? Okay, but that's not really the end of the world, is it? I mean, I was asked recently about Isra Mi'raj. Is it the 27th of Rajab? I was like, well, most likely not. Okay, so like, I mean, if it was the 27th of Rajab, like, wouldn't you make a special dua saying, oh Allah, if this is the day that you of the Isra Mi'raj, then obviously there's barakah in it, right? Like, that's just the nature of it. Obviously, it's a blessed day. So, so saying, I'm not saying that it is, I'm just saying if it is, it's a good day to celebrate. Otherwise, what is it? The parts of it's like it's hard. It's is your question then group dhikr? In which case you have is that your question? Like, okay, it's makruh because it's group dhikr. So then if we did it separately, it would be okay. Like if everybody separately sat down and did salawat separately. Well, they didn't. These are problems singing. Like singing is bad. So again, so they have to pinpoint the problem. So the whole thing's off. Okay, what is it? Look, you're mixing. Okay, so the problem is mixing then. What specifically is your problem? Singing, mixing, lack of emphasis, um, group dhikr, right? Group dhikr is debated. Okay, fine. We won't do group dhikr. Or you have to say, is it issue of is it sunnah or not sunnah? So it's not sunnah. Okay. Do we all agree on that, or do we not all agree on that? So we don't all agree that group dhikr is wrong or not sunnah. So you, at the end of the day, you have to say, well, I don't do it because it's group dhikr. I don't do group dhikr. Okay, but can we agree that there's just different agreement on that? Right. So we have to take the whole thing apart. Right. So your issue is on that day, don't do it on that day. Not a problem. Okay. The story of Thuwayba's manumission. In the books of Hadith and Hadith biography, prophetic biography, the scholars have mentioned the story of Abu Lahab freeing his female servant Thuwayba after she informed him of the Prophet's birth. The story mentions that Al-Abbas once saw Abu Lahab in a dream after his death and inquired about his state. Abu Lahab replied, I have not found any good after you, save that I am given drink due to setting Thuwayba free. On every Monday, my punishment is lightened. I say this report was narrated by a number of Imams and hadith, and such as Abdul Razzaq as-San'ani, Imam Bukhari, and Hafiz ibn Hajar, etc. Uh, um, so he said, da, 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 da. Ibn Kathir, he says, this is because when Thuwayba gave him the good news of the birth of his nephew, Muhammad ibn Abdullah, he immediately freed her, and on account of that, he was rewarded for this. Right. So Al-Hafidh Ibn Diya al-Shaybani, the author of Jami' Usul, he said the lightening of his punishment is only in deference to the Prophet, just as the punishment was lightened for Abu Talib. Uh, the upshot of this story is well known in the books of Hadith and Prophet. It was cited, etc. Everything within it, within it that possesses a chain. Okay. So the point is basically a kafir is rewarded for basically celebrating the mawlid, basically.
Who said that? Is that like related to a hadith, or
Yeah, so
is there like
that's what's happening is that he's seen in a
Mhm.
dream, and various hadith scholars are narrating this, where um
Oh, because Abu Lahab freed his
he
slave.
freed her
Mhm.
on the birth, like
Yeah,
on
yeah,
the birth,
okay.
right?
Yeah.
Celebrated it like that. And then the Prophet ﷺ, he also spoke about, that he was born on a Monday. He likes to fast on a Monday. So the Prophet ﷺ himself celebrated the Monday because he was born on it, right? But anyway,
hmm
the point is, like, again, 99% of quote mawlids is just a term, right? Like, what is it? So this is a key thing. And the key thing is, okay, define your terms. The other thing is, la mushahata fi istilah, right? That we're not interested in terms. We're interested in definitions. So what exactly are you talking about? Right? So I don't believe we should follow the form of dhahab. I believe we should follow the Quran and Sunnah. Define that. I don't believe, so when you say these people are mushrikeen, or this person is this person is this person, like define it exactly. So what do you mean by mawlid? Right? So most people, they don't work on that level. They don't work with terms. They work with emotions. Right? And so خير inshallah. So inshallah in the next few classes we'll talk about some other things inshallah ta'ala. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم سبحان الله وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. Okay, any questions or queries with that?
No,
Okay,
not right now.
okay, خير. Okay, وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم سبحان الله وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.